I quite like this, actually. I've got mic packs on my underwear, so if it slips down, you'll have to tell me. There we go. Well, happy Halloween. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Am I on? Yes, good. Okay. Peace be upon me. Welcome to the Dangerous Faggot Tour, and a very special edition of the Dangerous Faggot Tour. This is, of course, the Rally for America. I've come in the second scariest outfit I could think of. Most Halloweens I go as Michelle Obama, which is the most terrifying outfit I can think of. What? It's the scariest man alive. Yes, I agree, sir. Tonight I've gone with Rocky Horror meets ISIS. This is a Halloween scare fest. Are you all right down there? You okay? A little bathroom break or something? All right. This is a Halloween scare fest that sexually identifies as a Trump rally. Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you so much. Conservatism has never looked so... whatever this is. Now, of course, I'm not, as some of you know, only the most fabulous supervillain on the internet. I'm also the most fabulous supervillain of UC Irvine. Many of you, because nobody could get in, but some of you remember my smash hit talk, which has since done, I think in its various incarnations, about 50 million views on Facebook and YouTube and various other places about Black Lives Matter and the fact that it really doesn't care about black lives at all. This is my first foray. This is my first foray, thanks to dear Ariana, into the world of costuming at otherwise very sensible college lectures. And as those of you who are acquainted with Ivana Wall will know, I have taken it and run with it. So thank you, Ariana. Gay man in police uniform telling the truth about Black Lives Matter was a bit too much for the faculty and staff of this university. They raised hell afterwards, slimily trying to, in effect, disband the college Republicans for the crime of inviting me. This is the sort of political climate in which you exist here at UC Irvine. They did all kinds of slippery, odious, ugly tricks to try to get the college Republicans punished because there were some truths on stage they didn't like the sound of. Well, they miscalculated because they weren't dealing with your average college Republican conservatives. They were not. There was another example of colleges who really should learn that this stuff just doesn't work. And the reason I'm lingering on it is because support for Donald Trump is one of the things that can, with the least good reason, get you into the most trouble. Is anyone here got into trouble for their Donald Trump support? You have, yeah. Tell me, what happened to you? Yeah, you in the hat. Yes, you. Hi. Feels like an AA meeting now, doesn't it? Hi, I'm Eric. I've been supporting Donald Trump for about 3 months, and yes, my life is hell. Sorry, carry on.
I posted up a WikiLeaks article on my Facebook page. The minute I did, people told me that I was a flat-out racist.
Yeah, well, that's very classic. You know, they call me a white supremacist and an anti-Semite now. I can't imagine what in my dating history would suggest that I was a racist, except perhaps against whites. So I have no idea, but this is some of the things that the left does to you if you have the wrong politics. I learnt that the best publicity is to revel in your notoriety. And some of you know this because you're wearing your Make America Great Again hats around campus. And I learnt this lesson from Daddy. Daddy, of course, has got more free media coverage than any entity, company, or candidate in the history of American politics, than any candidate ever. Now, as I say, I'm here. It's wonderful, isn't it? Do you think it's hate speech? It's probably hate speech, isn't it? This Photoshop represents an act of violence against our student community. We rally here today, ladies and gentlemen, for Donald Trump. Just a week away from an election that can change the course of a country. An election, actually, that might represent a significant moment in the history of freedom and of the West. Will we drain the swamp? Or we allow a level of filth and corruption to reach Washington that even by Washington standards is hitherto unimagined. Let's hope that doesn't happen. The FBI, as you now know, has reopened an investigation into Hillary's emails. She is... People are going to be voting for this woman while she's the subject of an FBI investigation. It's fantastic. The thing they really don't want, the thing they're most scared of, is people who were going to sort of grudgingly vote for Hillary, just not bother to come out. Well, I think the FBI investigation is going to have a significantly powerful effect in that respect. And I don't know whether you've picked up on this, but I've picked up a sort of renewed optimism and confidence that we might just, at the last moment, manage to nail this. And we might have that glittering, golden, diamond-encrusted wall with T's every mile. We may have a Pennsylvania Avenue paved in gold and marble. We may have a President Trump. It'd be wonderful. Sad to say, we're not entirely out of the woods yet. Hillary is comfortably leading the polls in all of her home constituencies. Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Bahrain, Syria, and Alcatraz. But we do have some good news. On Friday, the FBI announced it was reopening the investigation because new evidence has come to light during a probe of a wiener. Now, it's that time of the decade, and it only happens once every 10 years when Hillary stops scissoring for a second to get fucked by a wiener. This is the one. Yes, thank you. Somebody in the audience knows what scissoring is. In reality, this should have happened a long time ago. They should never have closed the case without an indictment in the first place, and it shouldn't have taken her lesbian lover's husband sexting 15-year-olds to open it back up again. But I'm so glad it did. What a wonderful thing. Wonderful. Many of us hope that Hillary gets the chair. A wheelchair, I mean. Not... Stop it. Stop it. Of course not the electric chair. No, a wheelchair, which is, of course, what she collapses back into after 11 minutes standing. If Trump is the ultimate outsider, Hillary is the ultimate insider in hospitals, in waiting rooms, in ambulances, and inevitably at some point in a morgue. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Everybody dies, you know. Any person in Hillary's precarious state of health should be resting, not campaigning. We should have compassion for the elderly, you know. She should also thank her lucky stars that foreign nations have enriched her to the point where she doesn't need to use Obamacare. Whatever happens with Hillary, you cannot take your foot off the gas pedal. You cannot get complacent. You cannot imagine that the FBI disclosures are going to magically transform how the majority of America votes. True, they have been given yet another reminder of what a mendacious and dreadful woman she is. But that hasn't stopped large portions of the population from wanting to cast a vote for her anyway, simply as the least bad option in their minds. So you can't give up, and you can't take your foot off the gas, because there is an opportunity. There was a moment, wasn't there? Let's be honest. Between friends. There was a moment a week ago with, oh, fuck. He's really fucked it. And it wasn't really our fault. I mean, consider the way the media behaves. You know, you've got terrorism. You've got Republican officers being firebombed. You've got WikiLeaks, admissions of interference in foreign elections. You've got paid-for violence and rioting at political opponents' rallies. And what did the media want to talk about? A bit of locker room talk from a decade ago. So, you know, there was a moment when we thought, But guess what? A government department actually did something good for once. So congratulations to the FBI. And let's see what happens. The only thing that can defeat the axis of Clintonian evil, the media, the political circuit, which I'm sorry to tell you includes your own party, many of the people in the Republican Party, Paul Ryan and his wife's boyfriend. What? The chair was too bad, but that... The chair was fine, but that was too bad. Okay, all right. The Clintonian axis of evil can only be defeated. And by the way, I gave a talk about voter fraud. People ask you, sort of, oh, vast right-wing conspiracy about Hillary's health, until it isn't. Vast right-wing conspiracy about whether the election's rigged. Of course it's rigged. Of course it's rigged. Why do all dead people vote Democrat? Answer me that. When you can explain to me why every corpse in America with a voter registration magically happens to go Democrat, then we can talk about whether or not, talk about the election being rigged is a right-wing conspiracy. And that isn't without even taking into account, of course, the effect of the media and the effect of mendacious pollsters who we now know were operating in collusion with the Clinton campaign, sampling things wrong. They go out and they'll measure 1,500 Americans. You think, well, fair enough. It's quite a nice, decent cross-section of the population. But what you discover when you look into the numbers is that it's 900 Democrats and 400 Republicans and some independents. Well, what the fuck do you think the poll's going to say? And the Clinton campaign was in on it. So this Clintonian axis of evil doesn't just include, people up to no good. Soros. But it includes other apparatus of the establishment have a vested interest in globalism, globalization, and in the powers that be retaining their control of the American people. And that is the thing that you're resisting in this election. That is the reason you're voting for Donald Trump. Before we even get on, and we will in a minute, to the things that will happen if she's president, which mean that if you are a conservative, you have no right to use that word or to call yourself a Republican, to call yourself any kind of conservative or even a classical liberal, if you are a member of the Never Trump tribe. You have no right to call yourself a conservative. We'll get on to that in a moment. In fact, let's get on to it now. The Supreme Court is the single biggest reason you cannot allow Hillary Clinton in the White House. If she's able to appoint 4, or maybe even more, Supreme Court justices, you could be in a situation where you have a 7-2 liberal conservative bias on the Supreme Court. It will radically alter this country forever. And something else to think about. Amnesty. Even people who don't like Trump tell pollsters that immigration is one of their big concerns. And some people say, well, I don't like Donald Trump, but, If Hillary Clinton, and let's be under no illusions about, Congress or whatever, they didn't stop Obamacare, so they're not going to stop her. If she grants amnesty to 11 million people, and nobody knows how many illegal aliens there are in this country, it could be 30, the Republicans will never win another election, ever. That is the choice in front of America at this election. Never winning another election, ever. And having a Supreme Court which becomes a sort of activist coalition of grandees appointed by Clinton to reinterpret the Constitution as a living document. Well, the founders were smart people and everything, but what they meant to say was, if only the founding fathers had known about trannies, what they would have said was, I'm skating on thin ice on that one this evening, but this is not something you can allow to happen to your country. Fast forward 4 years, and it will be life, liberty, and adherence to the preferred pronouns of genderqueer, demisexual, otherkin. This is the reality. This is the reality you are sleepwalking into. And even before they attack my favorite amendment, the Second Amendment, even before they attack the Second Amendment, they will brand almost everything that everyone in this room believes as hate speech. And it won't just be campus crazies anymore. It won't just be the feminists and Black Lives Matter, with the help of the administration, with the collusion of your diversity student coordinator, whatever crap they come up with to give themselves something to do all day. It won't just be with their help. It won't just be the soft power around the edges of institutions. It will be with the full force of the law. They will seek to circumscribe reasonable, respectable opinions, conservative opinions, whether it's anxiety about immigration or how you choose to express yourself, as hate speech. And do not be fooled. Don't think just because you have the First Amendment that America is immune from this, because it's already happening. Title IX on college campuses already represents an unconscionable and extraordinary threat to your First Amendment rights. And this is going to increase over time. And as I say, with activist judges in the Supreme Court, there's no reason to suppose they won't come up with a new definition of free speech. Freedom from those ugly, bigoted conservative opinions, which must be circumscribed and criminalized. This will happen to you. This will happen to you because there's no reason to suppose that America is safer than Europe is. I'm coming to you as a warning from Europe because I know what happens when you give up on free speech and free expression. We'll get to that in a minute too. Don't do it. We need America strong and we need America free. We need you. So please make the right decision at the next election. It's very important that you do. Democrats, by the way, speaking of gun rights, Democrats should break with their own party on this. Many Democrats own guns, and there are plenty of respectable, nice Democrat people who you might even be willing to share a beer with from time to time, who appreciate why the First and Second Amendments are important. They remember a time, some of these Democrats, some of these liberals, remember a time when liberals supported free speech and were not the repressive, censorious bastards they are today. Some of these liberals, poor, dear, sweet Dave Rubin, it must suck to be Dave, watching his own side go mental. Some of these liberals understand this. Must suck to be him right now. All right, you're all young. You should all care about the economy and jobs. And I'm not going to linger on it for a very long time, except to say, where is that? What place? Oh, In and Out. Good food, bad career choice. But this is the future that you have. You live in California, for God's sake. You live in California. This is the only future you have left if Hillary Clinton gets in. This is the millennial workforce in 15 years' time. If you're liberal, you'll be at Gawker or the New York Times. If you're a conservative, that's it. I'll give you a hint. California isn't the cheapest place to find labor. Your education will help ensure you don't have a blue-collar factory job. But when those jobs disappear, so will the nice white-collar ones too. Is this generation going to be satisfied being baristas or burger flippers? I don't think so. If you have a gender study, if you have a gender studies degree, you should be grateful we allow you to breathe. In the glorious Trumpenreich, after the vapors, Black Lives Matter, illegals, and the cyclists, anyone with a gender studies degree is going, I want all of those delicious, foxy men on death row to be let off, and I want them replaced with gender studies graduates. Give them the chair. No, I'm kidding. Stop it. All right. We're getting there. There are no refugees, by the way. They're economic migrants, and we're going to get to that in a second. We know from WikiLeaks and other sources that Hillary Clinton truly does plan to flood the country with Syrian refugees. This is the serious bit of the talk. You are allowed to laugh. I love that term, Syrian refugees. It's typically sort of Clintonian, isn't it? This is untrue from every conceivable direction. Most of them aren't Syrian, and very few of them are refugees. These people are economic migrants. They're men of, in many cases, we've seen this in Europe. We know, we're not speculating, not another vast right-wing conspiracy. I'm telling you, because we have it in Europe, we've seen it. They're young men of fighting and fucking age, which for those of us fond of darker complexions, has some potential upsides, but sometimes I embarrass myself. These people are looking, well, no, I'm not, just kidding. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think I'm self-loathing. Have you heard that? Self-loathing homosexual. Just because I like to suck dick, that means I should give you 70% of my income, does it? Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Filling America with unskilled 22-year-old Muslim men will have the same effect in America that it had in Europe. mayhem. Remember that the children of migrants are far, far more likely to be radicalized. We know this from London. We know Muslims hate everyone. They go out of their way to make that clear. Not even other Muslims are safe. Look at what happens in Indonesia and the Middle East. And if we put together a list of the groups that Muslims don't like, it's all of the groups that liberals say they care about the most. It's Jews, well, they don't care about Jews unless it's a way to get at the alt-right. Unless it's a way to attack Donald Trump, they don't give a shit about Jews. But it's Christians also, it's women, and it's gays. Only Hillary Clinton could look at Europe, the new face of Europe, and say, we should do what these guys are doing. Only Hillary Clinton could look at Angela Merkel and say, that's what I call leadership. Allowing 2.5 million undocumented economic migrants from radically alien cultures into the country. This is serious stuff. Women in America are going to be terrorized and victimized as the women in Germany and the women in Sweden are being. Jews in Israel, of course, fight back. After the Second World War, they decided... Oh, look at you. Can I have it? I'll give it back to you. I'll give it back to you. Gays don't catch, so you'll have to run it up to me. Okay, all right. You think I was going to drape myself in it? There we go. I've caught it. Perfect. There's only one thing that triggers liberals more than offending Muslims, and that's Israel. Oh, there's more. We love that. Well, after the Second World War, Jews, I'm sort of Jewish, you know, my mother is Jewish, but I was raised Catholic, but I feel like I can talk about this subject. I know. Although, interestingly, no. British. After the Second World War, the Jews decided that they were not going to put up with it again. They said, never again. And Israel has been, for all of its occasional boisterousness, let's call it boisterousness, has been absolutely steadfast, resolute in protecting itself, and been very admirable in doing so. America has shown no such signs of awareness that the future of Western civilization very much depends on upholding the values on which this country is founded, and this country is based. Freedom, democracy, property rights, free and fair elections. None of these things exist in the Muslim world. If Hillary gets her way, Muslim migrants are going to come in here and arrive with their signature delicacies: lamb chops, yogurt, and gang rape. Now, I will make one small controversial statement before we move on, and it is this, because I want to just speak very briefly about what happened in Orlando. The women who are suffering at the hands of this particular kind of immigration in Europe, having awful things done to them, but by and large they live. They're able to have a life after the attacks. They're able to have a life afterwards, as scarred as they may be by what happened to them. Gays, on the other hand, end up dead. And there are plenty of conservative voters who aren't necessarily totally down with all of this. But I would entreat them to remember that we may be fags, but we're your fags. And by and large, trust me, you would prefer to have a few gobby queens causing a fuss in the bar late at night because they're too drunk and they touch somebody up. It's never. Than you would for Orlando to repeat itself. And I got to tell you, Orlando was just the first. It will not be the last. It won't be the last whatever you do. But it could be the first of a gigantic wave of this stuff if you don't elect Donald Trump.